I am Maria Antonia Sendas. I am a sophomore in Davenport College. And as the co-president of the Brazil Club at Yale, and as a Latin American and Iberian Studies undergraduate fellow at the Council on Latin American and Iberian Studies, I am delighted to welcome you to our career conversations with alumni who are working in or on Latin America. So the Council of Latin American and Iberian Studies enhances the understanding of Latin America and the Iberian Peninsula through collaborative efforts focused on meaningful partnerships and exchange of ideas and academic research. The Council is a central hub for intellectual exchange and partnerships on Latin America, Spain, Portugal, and it also administers the Latin American Studies undergraduate major. If you have not officially joined this undergraduate community, or if you are a graduate student, please visit the Council website to join. You will be a part of our close community and will have the opportunity to work with faculty and visiting scholars, as well as have access to funding opportunities during the academic year for short-term travel, for short-term research, travel, conferences, as well as many other summer projects. We're pleased to have many students as part of this network and are delighted to be collaborating with the Jackson Institute as a part of the Career Conversation series. Now I'm very glad to be introducing you to our guest speaker today, Carrie Nguyen, who is joining us from Mexico City, but has worked throughout Latin America, including in Brazil. Carrie graduated Yale College in 2009 with a BA in economics and psychology. She studied abroad in Argentina and Spain during her time at Yale. And upon graduation, she worked in management consulting with Oliver Wyman, as well as at a microfinance organization in Peru. She received her MBA from the Wharton School, where she was active with the Latin American Student Association and did exchange programs at the Universidad del Pacífico in Lima, Peru, and Universidad de los Andes in Bogota, Colombia. She's currently based in Mexico City and is with Nubank, a fintech startup that is valued at $25 billion and with 30 plus million customers. So thank you so much, Carrie, for joining us today and welcome.
Hey, Maria. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. And it's always really fun to get to connect with Yale students. I graduated over 10 years ago. I can't believe it. The last time I was on campus was 2019 for my 10-year reunion. I guess I was lucky because there were no more reunions after that. But part of the fun of coming back to campus is getting to see students walking around the halls again and getting to meet with people who are still living that Yale experience, which I miss a lot. So what I want to try to do is just kind of give you a little bit more overview of my perspective and experience with Latin America. I don't want to talk too long. I just want to give you guys enough points so you understand where my experience has been, my motivations, what I've learned along the way. And I really want to use most of the day to answer your questions so I can be as helpful as possible to you. So I guess I'll give you guys a little bit of background as well. You might be wondering, why am I working in Latin America? Am I Latin American? Do I look Latin American? Absolutely not, none of those things. I'm actually Vietnamese American. I grew up in San Jose, California. My parents were immigrants. So I'm kind of first generation in the United States. I grew up going to public schools all my life, and Yale was the first time that I traveled really far from home. It was the first time I went to a private school. It was the first time I got exposure to such a diverse international community because the neighborhood I was from was relatively homogenous in terms of diversity, in terms of religion, in terms of socioeconomic class. So going to Yale was like a really life-changing experience for me to meet people from different walks of life, to understand where we had things that were different from each other, but also appreciating that at the end of the day, we have a lot more in common than we have different. So while I was at Yale, I decided to study psychology and economics. I think Asia told me that a lot of you here are economics majors as well. I'll give you a little bit of a background on why I chose this combination. And it's kind of curious because economics and psychology have become tools that I've leaned on throughout my career the last 12 years, and not at all in the obvious ways, right? I hated econometrics. I was really terrible at that. And I remember when I was writing my thesis for the psychology major, having to carry out that experiment and walk up to students and survey people was really painful for me to do. But what I loved about the combination is that economics is so rigorous in the mathematical modeling, the way you think about incentives and actions, and basically try to construct an understanding of what should the rational, ideal, optimistic behavior of a person or a group of people or an economy be. And then psychology is this other part. What I really loved about psychology was social psychology. It was understanding how people made decisions, how their environment affected them, how their mood, how their even their genetics, etc. And for me, psychology was all about the crazy. It's like why people do the irrational things, the things that don't make sense. So when you finally put economics and psychology together, I was like, oh, I can finally understand why people do the things they do. And this kind of tool set has been really useful to me throughout my career, and I'll tell you more about that later. So during Yale, I was able to study abroad twice. It was once after my sophomore year. I did a study abroad in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It was my first time going overseas by myself. My Spanish was terrible. At the time, I was so scared just walking through the airport and trying to call a taxi. I don't think it got much better after that summer, but somehow I decided I was going to do it again. So I signed up for a semester in Madrid where I did an exchange at the Universidad Complutense. That was second semester of junior year. And I just really loved that too. And I got to travel around Europe while I was in Spain. So I think after that experience, and also continuing to take coursework in Spanish at Yale, I think I took about a third of my Yale coursework in Spanish, actually, which is amazing because my Spanish really was not very good in college. So I don't know how I made it through. It kind of sparked a curiosity in me to continue exploring the world, understanding people from different countries, cultures, languages. So I found a really good fit in management consulting, especially at Oliver Wyman, because it offered a very international career trajectory. And from day one there, I said, please, please, please send me overseas. I want to learn what it's like to work in other countries. I want to use Spanish. And of course, they sent me to upstate New York. But after that, I eventually made it to do work in Johannesburg, South Africa, in Dubai, as well as in Central America and Canada. And some of my clients were actually, even though I didn't visit their locations, my clients were dispersed across those regions, as well as across South America and a little bit in Eastern Africa as well. And then another part of this international experience I forgot to mention is right after college, I actually took a 3-month break and taught English in Vietnam. And that experience in Vietnam, in a very, very impoverished country, teaching English to university students who came from very different backgrounds, was super valuable to me too, informative of my view of the world. So after that consulting experience, I did 6 months working in microfinance in Cusco, Peru, which again brought me really close to communities who were less privileged, rural communities up in the Andean mountains, who were borrowing loans as low as $50, $100. And the purpose of the loan was to send my child to school, to repair my car so I can keep working as a taxi driver, to invest in my small business. And one of my roles as a volunteer there was to interview these borrowers, to write their profiles, put them up on the kiva.org website so that we could collect funds from people around the world who wanted to give microloans to other people and give them an opportunity. And I think one of the most impactful things was asking those people, what's your dream? What do you hope to achieve in life? And the things they told me were, I just want to put a roof over my head. I just want my kids to go to school. I just want to be able to keep working. And it was so different versus when you were in the United States, you ask somebody their dream and they're like, I want to own a second house. I want to go on vacation to Hawaii. And the people I was working to serve had such very basic dreams. The things they're asking for are things that we take for granted on an everyday basis that we have access to. So that was the experience that made me realize I really want to do work in a region where I can have a big social impact that really helps people and society get ahead. So with that in mind, I went to the Wharton School to get my MBA, but I already decided I want to focus on Latin America. I think there's a bigger opportunity there for me to have a bigger impact on a much broader range of people. And I want to work on the very fundamental problems. I don't want to work on how to give your pet like a more comfortable lifestyle. I want to work on tackling the problems of people who don't have food, who don't have money, who don't have access to education, who don't have access to affordable goods. So with that, I ended up coming down to Mexico City after graduate school in 2015. I found an opportunity with Amazon. I'm not going to ever say that e-commerce is the solution to all the world's problems. In fact, it might be creating a lot of problems in terms of logistics and disposable packaging and things like that. But it did make me learn that technology is really powerful. The internet and mobile devices have really changed the scale of impact we can make today. And it was amazing to be with Amazon in those early years and literally watch the Mexican landscape completely change from 2015 to today, because when Amazon came in, we suddenly said, it's no longer acceptable for you to wait 2 weeks for delivery. You can get that in 1 or 2 days, even if you are in a very rural area of Mexico where you couldn't buy any of these things before, or if you bought them, it cost like $100 and we'll now get it to you for $10. So I think there was a sea change in people's expectations of what good service, what good customer service could look like, and what is the range of goods that are available to them for a reasonable price. It was also where I learned how to be a product manager, which is a super fun job, which I'm happy to talk a lot more about. And it also eventually led me to a point where 4 years into that job, I said, wow, Amazon has made a huge impact on Mexico. The way we're going to grow here is by doubling down on logistics, improving the infrastructure of the country to move things around, or actually payments, because less than half the people in Mexico are banked. Only a quarter of them have a debit card, and credit card penetration is something like 10%. Can you imagine a world where nobody has debit credit cards and they're mostly paying for things in cash? I pay for my rent in cash. I have to go to the ATM and pull out thousands of pesos. In fact, I have to go 3 times a month because I can't get enough money to pay my rent in just one visit. So cash is super prevalent in Mexican society. It comes with a lot of disadvantages. It's very insecure, it's untraceable, it's subject to money laundering, terrorism. It means you don't build a credit history. You never have access to the formal financial system. You can never ask for credit. And it leaves people behind. So that's when I decided to move into the world of financial technology. And so last year in January, I joined Nubank. It is a Brazilian company that was actually co-founded by 3 people, a Colombian, a Brazilian woman, and an American who studied at Princeton, who is the CTO. So it's interesting because it's definitely a Brazilian Latin American DNA company, but with a very multinational flavor and with a woman co-founder and extremely diverse population of employees. We have about 3,000 employees now. I've been a product manager at this company, working mainly for Brazil, but also keeping an eye on our expansion in Mexico. We've been operating in Brazil for 7 years. What's crazy about Nubank is it's one of the top 10 most loved consumer brands in Brazil, which is crazy. If you ask somebody what their favorite brand is, they will never tell you Bank of America. They will just never tell you like a financial company, period, in any country. Like most countries around the world, if you ask people what company they hate the most, they're gonna tell you the cable company and then their bank. So it's really amazing that Nubank has flipped that narrative around and said, we're here for the customer. We're really going to simplify your life. We're going to make our customers love us. We're going to offer them a credit card, a digital account, insurance that's priced in an accessible and fair way, and that helps you get ahead in life, and that brings more Latin Americans into the formal financial space. So that's what I'm working on today. I love it a lot. I think we're making a lot of impact, and especially as a product manager, for me, this has been a super fulfilling career, especially compared to consulting, because as a product manager, I wear a hat in many functional areas. So my role can touch upon design, customer research, marketing strategy, business models, partnerships, engineering, all in the same day. And my job is to hold the vision of who is our customer, what does the customer need, and what are we building for them to deliver value to the customer and to the company. And what I love about this role as opposed to consulting is I felt like in consulting, my job ended with a PowerPoint deck. Today, my job is not just to create the PowerPoint deck, but actually to build the product and put it into customers' hands. And when you're at a company that ships software to 30 million customers, it means every day I'm making an impact on the lives of millions of customers. So I'll stop there, and happy to take your questions.